Age.
All right,
Okay, here we go.
recording in progress. And I'm gonna push that button that says got it, because I hereby consent to being recorded.
Yes. And then just for like legal reasons, I guess you're supposed to say it's recorded, even though everyone gets a notification too. So just don't forget to do that.
Hi, everybody. This meeting is being recorded, just as a heads up.
True, that's a very serious picture of you with the dark suit or the dark shirt.
I don't have the hair anymore.
Yeah, well, join the
Unfortunately.
club. It used to be that photographs were very expensive, had to be done at professional photographers. And there were people who ran the same pictures. They ran for office for 15 to 20 years. And they
Oh,
didn't
boy.
look anything like they did in their pictures.
Nowadays, we call that catfishing.
Now everything gets photographed, including stuff maybe that shouldn't be, but that's a whole other discussion.
So we will start at 6:10, if that is okay for everybody.
Mhm.
So we just want to give a couple minutes for everybody to join. I'll also put that in the chat.
Eric, you feeling better?
Not much, Larry. Thank you for asking, but
Drink a lot of water, and if the water doesn't work, you seem to have some high octane liquid behind you there, so.
yeah. Okay.
When I was little, we lived upstairs and down.
Yeah.
My grandmother, my mother's mother, lived in the first floor. And one day I was horribly sick. I was like 9 or 10 years old. And she gave me a glass of blackberry brandy. And I went upstairs, and of course I fell asleep for like 14 hours. And when I woke up, I was better. So
There you go. Yeah, a hot toddy might be in order.
Kim, do you know where Jack Duggan landed?
You know what? I'm not sure. I heard he might be interested in becoming a cop, but I'm not sure.
Yeah,
if he's doing that.
it could
I think
be
he
far
might take the
worse.
exam, but not
I
sure.
always found him to be a very decent guy to deal with.
Yes. Yeah, no, I'm sad he's gone.
His father was one of 10 kids and right in the Rosendale, West Roxbury line. And his aunt was the labor and delivery nurse when my wife delivered triplets. So you remember these people.
Oh, wow.
And I think the grandmother, Mrs. Duggan, I think she was related to Tommy Finneran somehow, but it's all foggy. It was a big family. When you have a family with 10, kids, that's a lot of votes in a house.
Yeah. No, I know. I remember he did say it a huge family. So.
Yeah. Well, I always found him to be a gentleman. We had a couple of, I wouldn't say difficult ones in West Roxbury, but interesting ones. And he was fair and very solid.
Yes, I agree.
And of course, the difficulty with West Roxbury is everybody either thinks they will run for office, or they should be running for office, or they used to be in office. So it's a very different kind of constituency than you have, for example, in the South End, where people are passing through, making a ton of money, moving out, coming back. It's just very different demographics.
Yeah, for sure. I actually covered this out then. Oh, I said that earlier, but yeah,
Yeah.
way different.
And of course, the South End, you get neighborhood groups bickering about which street is in with. I mean, I've been to those meetings.
Yeah.
You say to yourself, is this like dividing up Eastern Europe after World War II? Please. I mean, it's fascinating culturally to watch.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chu. I am the mayor's liaison to Chinatown, downtown, and Leather District. Hold on, give me 1 second. I am letting more people in. Again, my name is Chu. I am the mayor's liaison to Chinatown, downtown, and Leather District. Thank you for joining us tonight. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. The recording can be obtained via public records request. Firstly, I do want to apologize for the miscommunication about the timing of this meeting. We have kept the original time for 6 p.m. and the applicant is happy to meet with anybody that is unable to attend or will be late to this meeting. I am here tonight to facilitate the statutory required cannabis community outreach. This is an application by Stone's Throw Cannabis for a retail recreational store to be operated at the address of 727 Atlantic Ave. Before we start, I would like to go over my expectations for tonight's meeting. Having participated in multiple meetings of this kind, I know that this can be a sensitive topic. I want to make it clear that no decisions are being made tonight. And at no time will it be acceptable to be disrespectful to anyone in this meeting. Everyone in this room is entitled to their own opinions. There is no right or wrong opinion. We're here tonight to try to collect as many comments and questions for this proposal. I am not here to facilitate debates amongst neighbors or legislate state legislation. I ask that all questions be directed toward the applicant and myself only. The applicant will answer all questions related to their proposal to the best of their ability. I will answer questions specific to the city's process. I am unable or the applicants are unable to answer. If I am unable or the applicants are unable to answer a question tonight, we will follow up with you after the meeting to get the information to you. This is an open, and I will let Daisy Desiree present her Stone's Throw Cannabis.
Thank you, Chulan, and thank you, members of the Leather District, for attending today's meeting. I also apologize for the confusion and the back and forth around the timing. Today, we're here to propose our cannabis retail and courier establishment proposal at 727 Atlantic Avenue. And we will be going over our most recently amended proposal that includes community feedback received at previous community meetings. Now let's talk about our team. My name is Desiree Frangel. I am a co-owner of Stone's Throw Cannabis, and I'm currently managing the community outreach. Our team of co-owners brings a wealth of knowledge, experience, and care to cannabis retail. 5 members have founded businesses, of which 4 are presently employed. 2 members have several years of experience in safely, equitably, effectively implementing and administering the laws enabling access to adult use marijuana in the Commonwealth. Several members have provided consulting service to various vertically integrated players in Massachusetts, and we've also helped execute over 80 host community agreements in Massachusetts to date. This is why our team is great. Our collective experience helps overcome the barriers that people of color face in the industry, allowing us to give back. Our team members are local to the city and state. Our roots are here, and we are dedicated to community building and are passionate about helping others. At Stone's Throw Cannabis, we plan to offer safe access and safe lab-tested products, as well as offer a personalized experience for each one of our customers. Our team members are all committed to contributing to the betterment of the community. Our proposed location is 727 Atlantic Avenue. We are proposing hours of operation from Monday through Sunday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. We were given an opportunity to rent the space together, and it has finally helped us overcome the access to real estate barrier that many of our social equity co-owners have faced over the past few years in the industry. Now we'll speak a little bit about our proposed layout, and David will go over this. David?
Thank you, Desi. We've set the store up to be as efficient as possible for a number of reasons. Customers will enter through the Beach Street entrance. Their IDs will be checked when they come in, handy that before they proceed up to the main sales floor, which you can see there's 4 stairs. For handicapped folks, we have a chair lift that can allow people with wheelchair or other disabilities to get straight up. We have 10 checkout stations. Customers will proceed right to one of those stations. They'll be assisted, and then they head out the door onto Atlantic Avenue. In the event that we have more customers than we have checkout stations, the circle on the image in front of you is where we'll have stanchions, and we can have folks queued inside the store rather than waiting on the street. And I'll pass it back to Desi now. Thank you.
Thank you, David. So this is some of the zoning around our proposed location. The map to the left shows that there are no schools within 500 feet of this location. The map to the right shows another dispensary within half a mile, and that is 21 Milk Street. Although we are within the buffer of the Milk Street dispensary, our proposed location can qualify to sit within a buffer due to the density in the area. Now let's take a look at some of the host community agreements in the city of Boston. In order to move on to the zoning process, we must first receive a host community agreement from the Boston Cannabis Board. By law, there has to be a minimum of 52 host community agreements for cannabis retail in Boston. As you can see in this map, 52 host community agreements have already been approved by the city. The majority are for retail. This shows that in every neighborhood, there will be around 3 to 4 dispensaries operating. Now we will go over operations, and Eric will take the lead on this. Eric?
Eric, you muted.
Excuse me. Sorry about that. Eric Lawrence. I'm a co-owner of Stone's Throw Cannabis. Bear with me because I'm suffering from a cold this evening. Well, I'm going to talk about operations this evening. First off, security. The Cannabis Control Commission has set strict regulations regarding the safety and security of cannabis establishments. We're going to follow the state's regulations to ensure that we're providing a safe, secure access to cannabis products. We will operate high-resolution camera systems that will monitor all transactions within the facility, and they will cover every square inch of the interior and exterior of the facility. The system will be redundant in the event of a power outage. We'll have a backup system in place. All of our associates will undergo an extensive background check and to complete the state-required registered agent training. We will have a limited access vault area. Excuse me. Next slide, please. Diversion prevention. Of utmost importance to Stone Throw Cannabis is that we prevent our products from getting into the hands of minors. No one under the age of 21 will be allowed to enter into our facility, and all customers will be required to show valid proof of ID. All IDs will be scanned through the state's scan system. Any invalid IDs will not be allowed into the facility, and we'll utilize the seed to sale system that the state has implemented. In the event that products do get into the hands of minors, we'll be able to track back and determine who purchased those products. Next slide, please. Nuisance prevention. Our goal at Stone's Throw Cannabis is to be a good neighbor and to have a positive impact on the community. All of our customers will be required to comply with our friendly neighborhood agreement, which says that there's no public consumption allowed, no loitering, no littering, no double parking, or any unlawful behaviors. We'll have an inside queuing area, as David mentioned, which will allow which will prevent customers from lines from forming on the outside of the building. And we will offer pre-orders that will help expedite and control customer flow. We've contracted with and partnered with Smart Security. Smart Security is run by a 30-year Boston Police Department veteran. And Smart Security will be responsible for our ID checks, as well as ensuring that there are no nuisance behaviors that are occurring inside or outside of the facility. I'll turn it back over to Desiree.
Thank you, Eric. Stone's Throw Cannabis started their community. We started our community outreach process in December of 2021. Since then, we've met various times with abutters in the community and neighborhood groups. On March 3rd, we did receive a list of concerns and questions, and I would like to go through some of the commitments we have incorporated as it pertains to the feedback. Currently, there are 11 dispensaries open in the city of Boston, and some of who have parking and will be more likely to receive drive-in traffic. Our focus will remain on walk-in traffic. Therefore, we will not advertise on billboards to attract drive-in customers. Additionally, we will offer validation if deemed necessary. Currently, out of the 11 dispensaries open, the city is not experiencing an excess in vehicular congestion or parking issues around these cannabis establishments. Now, if we can talk about delivery service and traffic. Another concern raised was around delivery service and traffic. Our delivery service is meant to reduce drive-in traffic. There will only be one small van making deliveries, and this vehicle would park in the loading zone already in front of the store. Based on community feedback, we can consider commencing delivery once operational between 6 to 12 months. We take community feedback very seriously, and if the community feels that they would prefer for us to hold off on delivery, that's something that we will absolutely do. Next slide, please. Our friendly neighbor agreement is an actionable plan designed to mitigate community concerns. We can enforce the friendly neighbor agreement through added security cameras, smart security company, which we've hired, and ongoing community engagement with neighborhood groups and through employee training. Also, incidents that may arise can be reported to Trey Williams, James Finney, and I. As reference, unlike the Liquor Licensing Board, the Boston Cannabis Board has not received any cannabis violations thus far. And I'm happy to go on to community benefits. Thank you. As it pertains to community benefits, we have committed to the following amendments in our proposal. After meeting with the community several times and listening to concerns about crime, we wanted to include 3 additional cameras in the exterior of the building as crime deterrent and as extra surveillance accessible by BPD, Boston Police Department. Stone's Throw will also promote other local businesses and restaurants in the area, bring jobs into the community, and contribute to groups working within the Leather District. We will maintain long-term engagement by attending monthly meetings with neighborhood groups and proactively participating in the improvement of the Leather District. We will also have expungement clinics through the Big Hope Project. This is our positive impact plan, and we're offering this to help others who were also affected by the war on drugs. The following images illustrate the footage of the 3 added cameras. These cameras are not required by the city and state, and they are not required as part of our security plan. We are offering this as a community benefit to ensure that crime in the area is reduced and that we can work with the Boston Police Department in case any of this footage is needed. The Beach Street camera will have coverage facing down Beach Street. The Atlantic Ave camera will cover the front sidewalk of 717 Atlantic Ave, as well as a portion of the street. At previous meetings, trustees from the 717 Atlantic Avenue building, which is residential, have expressed concerns regarding having people outside of their building, public consumption, loitering, littering. We believe this camera will help us enforce our friendly neighbor agreement, as well as ensure that none of our patrons are loitering outside of 717 Atlantic Avenue. And the middle camera, which you see there, will have coverage directly across the South Station. We believe that having more surveillance in the community may help reduce and solve crimes. This camera footage will also be accessible by the Boston Police Department through live footage. And let's go on to our proposed timeline. The cannabis licensing process is a lengthy step-by-step process, and we want to be transparent about our proposal. These are the steps we must take and have already taken. We began community outreach in December of 2021, have held a few abutters meeting in January and March, and we filed with ISD in February. After today's meeting, if we are lucky, we will go in front of the Boston Cannabis Board to then go on to the Zoning Board of Appeals. And lastly, the last part of the process would be the state process, which takes about 6 months. So this is our current timeline. And that concludes our presentation. We're happy to answer any questions.
Hello, thank you. Thank you to the team for that presentation.
Should we ask the question, or are you going to read the question we just wrote during the presentation?
Okay, yes. So I will be calling people based on the order of raised hands. And to raise your hand, you would go to the bottom of your screen and click the raised hand button. So this is the open comment period, meaning that if you do not get called on tonight, or if you think of questions that have not been answered, all you need to do is reach out to either myself or the applicant, and I will work with you to get that information. My contact information has been included on the flyer you received prior to attending this meeting. And I will also leave it in the chat.
Thank you, Chulan.
So I will start calling on people. Also, I will read the questions asked in the chat first. And when you guys are, when I call you, please state your name and your address before making your statement. So I will start by reading off the chat. Let's see. Micah asked, is there going to be a minimum buy requirement similar to how liquor stores can be prevented from selling nips or fill?
Thank you. We currently don't have a minimum purchase requirement.
But we're not going to be selling single pre-rolls.
So
we
I'm
can
looking
take
for
that.
questions. I'm looking for questions specifically
Okay.
here in the chat. Catherine Freeman asked, how is the friendly neighborhood agreement enforceable?
Thank you, Catherine. So I believe we went over that in our deck. There are many ways that we can help enforce our friendly neighbor agreement. One of them is through the added security cameras that we're incorporating in the exterior of the building. These cameras will give access as much as possible to Atlantic Avenue, South Station, and down Beach Street. Also, we have Smart Security, who we've hired. The company is owned by a former Boston Police Department, and he's actually here today. Jerry, do you want to introduce yourself? You have to unmute.
So, how's that? Can you hear
Yes,
me?
great. Thank you, Jerry.
Okay, yeah, myself, Jerry Smart, and my partner, Joseph Harris. I think between the two of us, we have about 60 years of experience in the police department. And I think over my last 10 years in the department, I've been in community service. So I'm very sensitive to the community needs. I've attended hundreds and hundreds of meetings. And so I tend to lean on the side of the community. I think what they've put together is a very good program. At least everybody that comes in has to sign in some sort. And if this person is found out to be one of the double parkers, one of the people smoking outside, they won't be invited back. And we'll be able to help them with this process. The security is good, the lighting, the street views are excellent, and our relationship with the police department, the local police department over in Area A, would help us liaise better. We know how they work, and I think that that entity would be perfect for this area.
Thank you, Jerry. Additionally, we will be training our employees. So if there's an employee who's out on break or leaving work and they see someone was in the store 15 minutes ago and they're further down the street where our cameras don't have coverage, they are required to report the incident. As well, we will be maintaining our relationship with the community and going to community meetings. If things arise, we plan to address them and engage, continue the engagement with the community to ensure that these things aren't happening. Thank you, Catherine. We can take another question, Chulan.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Colbert asked, let's see. Chris Colbert asked, how will they address double parking on Atlantic, which is already a bottleneck?
Thank you, Chris. So we plan to also include no double parking on in our friendly neighbor agreement contract. Every patron must sign this. We won't allow people to double park as far as we can see. If they're on Atlantic Avenue, we have that additional camera that will give us coverage as well. Jerry and the Smart Security Company will also help keep people from double parking either on Atlantic or on Beach Street. We're really not expecting a lot of customers to drive in. Most people don't drive into downtown for, just to visit a convenience store or a liquor store, and we're not expecting that to happen with cannabis. There are currently 11 stores open already in the city of Boston, and we're not seeing high amounts of traffic or lines out the door. So that's not something we're expecting, but we do have the contingency plan in place. because we want to make sure we're being friendly neighbors. Thank
So
you.
I'm gonna take, so I'm gonna address one more chat question for now, and then we're gonna move over to names. So raise hands so people can talk. So I'm gonna do one more question from the chat before we start. This is from Bruce Johnson. How many of the existing dispensaries are in the residential neighborhoods?
Thank you for that question. That's a really good question. So actually, most of the dispensaries are in residential neighborhoods. I want to say that maybe Milk Street is not, or French Street is not. But what we're seeing with the host community approvals, 52 host community agreements have already been approved by the Boston Cannabis Board. Only 11 are operating, and most of these are in neighborhoods with mixed use with both residential and businesses. So we are seeing dispensaries that are currently operating with residential next door, on top, or across the street.
Can you provide with an example what you mean a residential neighborhood in the city, more specifically? Is in the Back Bay area any, or in South End or North End?
Sure. So there is actually a dispensary open on Albany Street in the South End. They actually are in between two residential buildings. That's one example. We have two dispensaries that are open in East Boston. One of them is on Meridian Street with many businesses next to them, as well as residential on top.
So indeed, there are nothing in the city, in Beacon Hill, in Back Bay, in North End, in Seaport, but we should have two in our little neighborhood.
I'm sorry, did you say,
Yeah.
can you repeat that?
Yeah, I say, so you are telling me that there is indeed no one in the Back Bay area, in the Beacon Hill, in North End, or in Seaport neighborhood?
Well, right now there are 52 host community agreements across the city, meaning 52 retail stores have been approved. Only 11 of them are open. Once 52 stores are open, each neighborhood will have 2 or 3 in their neighborhood. So currently there aren't any, but they are opening as time rolls by.
Okay, so we will move on from that question, and I will start the raised hand session here. So I will be calling based on the order of the hands raised. We will start with George Swallow.
Hi, thank you. So Desiree, we are aware that you have an application in the South End right now. Can you give us an idea of how many dispensaries you're planning to open, and tell us a little bit about your management experience and where you'll be focusing most of your time?
Thank you, George. So I currently do have another application in the Back Bay area. That is a separate company from Stone's Throw Cannabis. Stone's Throw Cannabis was put together by David and Blake after having worked with social equity applicants who have been trying to get in the industry for years. Some of the barriers we faced are finding a location, access to capital. And so when Blake and David came to me, Trey, Michael, the rest of the team members who were social equity applicants with the opportunity, it was a relief, because we've been trying to get in the industry for a very long time, and it seemed that bigger companies from out of state were coming in and getting approvals, and social equity applicants were just, were being left out. So this specific approval is unique in the sense that the structure and the purpose of this company is to allow social equity applicants like myself and my colleagues to enter the cannabis industry, gain experience, gain capital, and then be able to open our own stores. So at Stone's Throw Cannabis, there are 10 owners. We all have control over the company, and it's a collective, and we'll be working together. My separate proposal has nothing to do with this proposal. But Stone's Throw Cannabis was put together to help people impacted by the war on drugs get a foot in the industry. And Blake and David, if you want to chime in and talk a little bit about that.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Blake Mensing, the CEO, and the structure was from my experience as a cannabis attorney. Essentially, the barriers that folks faced made it so that the state statutory goals of restorative social justice weren't being met. The numbers in terms of who owns cannabis businesses in this state are not representative of our cross-section of the population. And ultimately, we structured it in a way so our 6 social equity partners have below the equity percentage that the commission counts against how many licenses they may own. Collectively, they're the majority owners. And the goal behind that is, again, to give them the flexibility for their next project, wherever else they might go. So in pitching to an investor or a municipality, they'll be able to say, I've run a store, I've made, I'm bringing money to the table that I've earned from the store. And it's really just a way to sort of try to make up some of that gap. And I recently presented this corporate structure at a cannabis convention. And my sincere goal is that people copy the structure. It's helping 6 people instead of 1. And we have, a democratically run organization, whereas a lot of the bigger operators will come in and say, great, you've got that certificate, take the money and sit in the corner and don't do anything. That is the exact opposite of what we want to do. The buy-in from everyone in our team is their sweat equity and their varied and diverse backgrounds in terms of professional experiences.
And just to complete the answer, George, I will be at Stone's Throw Cannabis. I will be running the community liaison part of the aspect of the business. I will also be a manager with James Finney. My experience is around customer service, the food industry, and community outreach. I have 10 years of experience doing community work in the city of Boston. And my diverse skill set definitely applies to this industry. I also in 2016 was visiting in California for 2 years, learning about the industry. And so, yeah, all of us together have, collective experience to manage a cannabis retail store. We can take another question. Thank you, George.
Yep. So the next person is Catherine Freeman. Hey, Catherine.
Hi. I have a couple of questions and comments. One comment to start with, when you list the parking garages in the neighborhood, I would like to point out that 84 Beach Street has been closed for at least 1.5 years. I do encourage you to familiarize yourself with our neighborhood. Again, a lot of those parking garages are not really available. They're not open the same hours that you're open. So you might want to do some more research on that. Also, as far as your camera coverage, you've mentioned adding cameras. How is the view from those cameras going to be different from the view of the security guard that I believe you're required to have in front of the building? Meaning that the camera coverage really isn't going to show that much of the neighborhood any more than what you are required to show. And then finally, you started by talking a lot about giving back and betterment of the community. How are you bettering the leather district with this proposal? Everything that you say seems so internally focused, but how are you bettering the leather district?
Okay, can you go back to the first question, Catherine?
First, I was a comment about
I got
the
the
list of
parking stuff.
garages.
Yep.
Before that, the camera coverage. That if I'm correct, I believe that you are required to have security stationed inside the facility and outside. That at least would align with what's happening on Milk Street. And so, if you have a security guard posted outside, how would that person not see exactly the same that you're seeing on the camera? So therefore, you're not really picking up anything new to help out residents. So, as far as the number of people who are sitting in stoops around the corner smoking, that's not being covered by your camera. Your camera is just recording the same footage that somebody outside is seeing, is it not?
So
Yes and no. The camera would also face down Beach Street. Uh, our security guard cannot be in 3 or 4 different places at once. So the camera coverage is designed to ensure that our patrons are, following the rules. And they're also designed to be there in case something happens while we're not open. If something happens in the middle of the night, right in front of 717 or down Beach Street, and our camera coverage covers it, the Boston Police Department will have access to that. They won't even have to call us to say, hey, we need footage, something happened in the community. They'll have direct access to that.
and if I
And
may,
as
Catherine,
as far as community benefits, we've met with the community various times. They've expressed the crime in the area, the loitering, the people hanging out. And so this is a way that, we can contribute to the community and that corner of the building. Also, we're
How,
holding
how,
expungement
how
clinic.
is this not adding to the, I mean, based on all the questions that other people have asked too, how is this not adding to the potential loitering and crime in the neighborhood?
How is what not adding to the potential
Well,
crime and
this
loitering?
business is, I guess, what a
Well,
lot of people are concerned about.
Catherine, right now there have not been any violations at the Boston Cannabis Board for cannabis dispensaries. So, we haven't seen the loitering, the littering, the public consumption, or the double parking, or the immense traffic or immense lines that a lot of residents are worried about. It's just we're not seeing that. The Cannabis Board can also verify this.
and if I may, your assumption, Catherine, about a security guard being required on the exterior, that's actually not a state regulatory requirement. The requirement is merely to verify ID before someone comes in. So the security guard is intended to be an olive branch to the community to say, look, we have a friendly neighborhood agreement. That enforcement will be through smart security, and the additional camera coverage, as Desi said, will allow us to communicate and share with the police department to try to clean up instances of loitering, littering, public consumption. And like any private business, if someone doesn't follow our rules that we're setting, which again are above and beyond what the state requires, we will say you can't shop here. So that is an extra change that we included based on community feedback.
Yeah, and I'll add on to that. I'll say that, we have 10 members of our team. We have plenty of hands to help with the betterment of the Leather District, whether it's cleaning up or attending meetings, whatever needs to be done in the community. We have a commitment to maintain a relationship. As long as the neighborhood groups want us there, we'll be there and we'll help in whatever way we can. We know the Leather District has been left out of the BPDA, and we've heard a lot of these issues that have been going on through attending community meetings. And so we're willing to help in whatever way we can. We're offering these benefits, but we are more than happy to go back to the table and offer something that your community needs. It's not up to me to tell the Leather District what they need. That's why we are engaging with you all. That's why we've tried to have as many community meetings as possible. We want to hear your feedback, and we want to be given an opportunity to help create community benefits. But if we're not receiving feedback as to what the community needs, it's really hard to do that. So I would encourage you to share a little bit more about what you feel the community needs, and we're more than happy to help with that.
So definitely, I don't think we need more camera because we can afford the camera. We don't need your activity, your business to provide us with more cameras to monitor the leather district. So and I fully agree with Catherine, what she shared. I don't see any, but really any at all benefit for our community in the leather district to have this store here. And I rather see that you are amplifying all our program that we have at the moment. The parking, I mean, you say you are not going to allow people double street parking. I tell you that this is the routine here, being next to South Station, where every day between Uber and Lyft, people pick up. We already have this problem. So the parking and the traffic is terrible. We already know that there are so many problems with the substance abuser and distribution around. And you did even mention how this can even amplify the problem of drug addiction in the neighborhood. So in my opinion, you are just bringing additional problem to our current situation. And the camera is not the solution. When you say, what do we need for the neighborhood? Maybe an art gallery. I don't know. That's I see how improvement of our neighborhood image. I don't envision a dispensary to improve the neighborhood situation. So I totally, if you can express beside your company benefits, any other benefit for me as a resident, I would truly appreciate. But I don't see any from your description. Thank you.
Thank you, Antonella.
Hey,
Currently
thank you,
there.
Antonella. Desiree, before you continue, I just want to make a comment. Antonella, please do wait until you get called on before you make comments, because there is a line. So I just want to keep this order. I just want to keep this meeting orderly. So please, again, just wait until you get called on before you make comments.
Thank you,
Desiree.
Chulan. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I would say that, currently there's no data showing that, substance abuse increases around places that have cannabis retail stores. We're just not seeing that in Boston, Antonella. And, I appreciate your feedback, but I do believe that, having added security cameras is beneficial to any community when the community has already been faced with pre-existing loitering and littering and substance abuse use. Those things will not be allowed for our patrons. Any patron that violates our friendly neighbor agreement will not be let back in the store, and we will take that very seriously.
Thank you, Desiree. So we will go to the next person. Mike?
Yes.
Mike, go. I don't want to butcher your last name. Go Terry.
Mike Walter. Yeah, I'm a resident. My wife and I are residents at 717 Atlantic Ave, which is the building right next to this proposed location. I'm very opposed to this. I've put my reasons in the chat. I think it'll be a nuisance and change the nature of the area. So I've given all my reasons in there. But I would like to say that I know that 717 and Beach Street, it's across from a train station. It's across from South Station. So you might think, oh, well, that's a very busy neighborhood, but it's quite peaceful because that activity occurs over there, and we're surrounded by offices that people come in and out of. The biggest concern I have, and I'd have the same. This has nothing to do with cannabis. I don't care about cannabis. It could be a Trader Joe's, but I'd have the same concern. But I have more of a concern with cannabis because of the limitations of how many people can be at the store in one time. And the people are going to enter on Beach Street, and they are going to come out 2 feet from our building all day, every single day. So it changes the nature of this, even on weekends, Sunday morning. So it totally changes the nature of the neighborhood, and it's remarkable that that this proposal, with everything that they say, can't find a location that isn't next to where people live, directly residential. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
you, Mike.
Desiree, did you want to respond to that?
Sure. I mean, as far as having a residential building next to our location, as I already mentioned, 52 host community agreements have been approved. Each neighborhood will have 3 or 4 dispensaries, which means that, these dispensaries will be more of a convenience. People will come in who live in the neighborhood. We're not expecting people coming in from Dedham or Revere or other parts of the city to this store, so we don't expect long lines. And we've also really tried to address the concerns of the trustees at 717 by making sure that we have a plan around the friendly neighbor agreement, by making sure we have a comprehensive security plan, which is required by the city and state. And by meeting with the community as much as possible to hear these concerns and to try to come up with solutions around them.
Well, can you have people exit on Beach Street then? Because I don't want hundreds of people walking by my front door 12 hours a day, 7 days a week.
I think that's something that we can discuss internally, and if you would leave your email in the chat, we can
Well, I don't want to engage in anything because there's no circumstances where I want a retail business like this there. And I don't think some people on Beach Street, there's some people that seem to want it. I'm not sure why, what's in it for them, but this is a very large city, and you should be able to find other locations that have that are not controversial.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you again. Next, we will have Mario Signor.
Sorry, did you just call me? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Sorry. Thank you. I am actually calling in from New York City. I just left South Station a little 2 o'clock today on the Acela. I love that neighborhood, the Leather District. I used to deliver ice to Wedgie's Pub back in the day down there, and Leather District, that whole area, South Station, is pretty special to me. I've been working in the cannabis industry in Boston for well over 4 years. I'm familiar with how difficult it is. And I'm listening to all the residents of the building, and I understand they're nervous and they're scared. The thought of cannabis, scary. But I'm here in New York, and it's so funny to see how people are welcoming cannabis on the streets. Everyone is so excited about it, so happy, and they're so supportive of it. And then Boston has got a tendency to just kind of really attack people with new ideas and new things that they're afraid of and they don't understand. And really bums me out because I've seen how well cannabis works with communities and neighborhoods where you have dispensaries open up and everyone's nervous. There's going to be big lines and traffic and crime. Where in fact, if you look at all the statistics, anywhere there's been a dispensary, not only has crime gone down, property values have increased, and you're not having big lines in traffic. South Station, I took the Green Line into town. I didn't drive. We don't drive there. I don't know if anyone knows this, but Boston is one of the worst cities for traffic. These people are looking for foot traffic. They're not looking to bring people in and cars in. Boston is terrible for traffic. Cannabis, people going to a store in that location will be traveling by train. They're taking public transportation. They're not going to bring traffic there. And it brings a lot to the community. My last thing I want to say about it real fast is the team and the opportunity, the team of people involved to have 10 social equity applicants coming in to start a business. This is a model that people dream about. You're giving an opportunity to a group of people who have been left out on a future industry that was created on the backs of people that were put in jail and prison for cannabis, and they're being kept out of this industry now. I'm not saying the people on this call have been put in prison, but I'm saying they're from communities that have been marginalized and left out of chances and opportunities to make generational money. All the other businesses in Boston, these other dispensaries that are popping up around the area without any issues, are created by billion-dollar companies or old money like wealth, real estate funds, hedge funds, venture capital. You guys are seeing an opportunity for wealth for local Bostonians and people who deserve this. I would be proud to have this team, who I know most of. I would be proud to have these people opening a dispensary in my neighborhood. I know it's scary to you, but it's actually good for the community. Creates a lot of opportunity, jobs, will increase your property value. And being in an area with foot traffic like this, you're going to reduce traffic. You're helping the city. I understand a couple of the people, the residents, are afraid of it. But I think if you take time to meet with them, you'll learn a lot more. Sorry, I'll stop. I could go on for hours. I'm fired up.
Thank you. We will move on to the next person, but due to time constraints, we will have to move on.
Thank you, Mario. Thank you, Chulan.
Next person would be Theodore Biscus. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Most people butcher it, so I'm not a fan. My name's Theo. I'm the property manager for 7-Eleven and 695 Atlantic. My question is kind of more towards Jerry and the security team. I'm just kind of interested in like our ongoing communication after the dispensary opens. We have 24-hour security at both of our buildings. We're pretty well versed with chasing away the homeless, the drug addicts who like to loiter in our alleyways. So I'm just kind of interested in what type of communication we can have and we plan to have with the team after the business opens.
Sure, I can handle that. So I will be the compliance officer, and Desi and James Finney will be, our initial points of contact. And just, to clarify, again, I'm a cannabis attorney, so part of my job is helping people follow the rules. And one of those components is found in 935 CMR 500.110, which goes into extreme granular detail on how a company like this, an operation like this, has to run. Abiding by standards that are more stringent than a bank or a pharmacy has to abide by. So yeah, we will be the points of contact. I believe that was in our last slide, my contact information as well as Desi's. And yeah, that will be our ongoing commitment to work with anyone who has security concerns in the neighborhood.
Theo, this is Larry. I'm outside counsel to the folks Stones Throw. They are very rigid rules which have to be followed. There are statutes of the Commonwealth, ordinances of the city of Boston, regulations, and they prescribe, and Blake made reference to only one of them, exactly how you have to proceed, not only in the acquisition of product, sales, security. It's spelled out, and we'll follow it to the letter of the law. And I'm sure that Smart Security will happily meet with you. Is it once a month? Whatever makes sense to you. Share footage, all those kinds of things, because we're all interested in the neighborhood being a good place.
Yeah, and that's exactly my idea is, working this as a team. We've got the 24-hour security. We're looking out for our building tenants and just keeping the neighborhood as safe as possible.
Thank you, dear Theodore. Yeah, that makes complete sense. That's actually, we would love that. My hope is to go to the monthly meetings of the Leather District Neighborhood Association, the Chinatown Residents Association, the 1LD, any group that is trying to better the community. We're committed to working with them to do our part.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you again. So we're gonna call on the next person now. I have Larry Rosenblum.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah,
Yes.
first I'd like to say hello to Larry DeCara,
Hi, Larry.
who I haven't seen for many years. It's nice to see you. I have not been, I live at 134 Beach. I have not been at any of these meetings before, and so my questions are really more at a procedural level. How do I learn more about the group, the proposal, the written proposal? How can I get some hard copy information about what you're trying to do? Number one. And number two, how do meetings like this play into the decision-making process at the city level? And so what opportunities will the neighborhood have to weigh in the decision, in the final decision?
Thank you, Larry. We're more than happy to send over our presentation and get on a call or a Zoom with you to go over our proposal. And as far as opportunities for the community to engage regarding our proposal, we are scheduled to go in front of the Boston Cannabis Board. We haven't gotten on the agenda yet, but we hope to get on the agenda in June, at which point they will open it up for public testimony. Constituents are also able to email the Boston Cannabis Board in regards to our proposal. And if Kim or Chulan want, if I left anything out, if you guys want to add.
Just to follow up, will there be further meetings beyond this at the scale?
We're more than happy to have another meeting. We've had 2 private abutters meeting. We've presented at the Leather District Neighborhood Association and the Chinatown Residents Neighborhood Association. This is supposed to be the last meeting before we go in front of the Boston Cannabis Board. But as I said, we're more than happy to hold another meeting or meet with you independently.
Yeah, I mean, at first, I would like to just see the proposal because I'm learning now for the first time, not that I wasn't aware of this, but this is my first opportunity to learn anything about the specifics of this project. And so if you could point me to your written proposals to the city and any other background material that's used to basically explain how this industry works, what the pros and cons are from the community's perspective. I'm sure I'm not the only one who'd appreciate learning more about this.
Thank you, Larry. If you can direct message me your email and I can follow up with you right away tomorrow.
I can. Should I put it into the chat?
Yep, if you want to send me a direct message on the chat.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I'll just put in my my name and email address. And we
Thank
can
you,
go from
Larry.
there. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I will go to Alan Marquish.
Yes, Markusich, can you hear me?
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
All right. I guess, I just want to say that personally, I am in favor of this business. I see a lot of good things that come out of it. Starting with the structure, I think that, it's important to remember that there were a lot of people negatively impacted by the war on drugs. And the reason why cannabis is legal in the state of Massachusetts and this program was enacted was to try and, offset a lot of the damage and negative impact that was unfairly enacted upon minorities in the city of Boston. So I think when we talk, and I've been a resident owner in the South End for the last 28 years. And prior to that have lived in the suburbs where there aren't businesses on your doorstep. And that's a choice that you make when you live there. And it's a choice to make when you live here. But I think part of living in a community is also acknowledging the pluses and minuses of the community over the past decades, and signing up for what the city deems as lawful. And I think that it's the best possible scenario for the way to set up a business. As a few other people have said in the past, that this is a model really for the way to do it in the future. And I just wanted to get that on the record and say that. So I admire everyone that's involved for their dedication and their work in this.
Thank you, Alan. And I'll just add one more thing on top of that comment. There's a very long list of multi-state operators that are dying to come into the city. They're not concerned with residents. They're not concerned with communities and what the community needs are. We're all 6 of us are Boston residents. I was born and raised in the South End's Villa Victoria. There are 2 other members of our team who are South End residents. We truly care about this neighborhood and every neighborhood in the city. And so, that's a difference. That's for me, I see that also as a community benefit. Having someone that is from the city, that understands the adversities of the cities, its virtues, and that is willing to work hard to maintain or elevate the quality of life in the city.
Thank you. Alan, could you also state again for the record your residence in the Leather District?
My address is Gray Street in Boston.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to David Jean Jaquise.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, it's David Jean-Jacques. How you guys doing?
Sorry.
No worries. I just want to go on the record to say I fully support Stone Throw. I think they're the first collective of social equity applicants banding together. I think it's a great proposal for South Station, particularly. There's a lot of foot traffic, like somebody else mentioned. I believe wholeheartedly they'll really improve the community, and it's a great model to follow how they're all banding together. I'm with the Big Hope Project. We're a 501c3 founded in Boston, Dorchester to be exact, the epicenter for the war on drugs. And I really believe we need more diversity and ownership in Boston. So Stone Throw is providing that. And Big Hope also focuses on deterring mass incarceration, recidivism. We provide education on the social equity program. We provide free expungement services and community outreach in all areas of disproportionate impact all over Massachusetts. So sorry, I was just a little out of breath, but Stone Throw is great. I want to go on record for my support, and Big Hope fully supports them. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And could you again state your residence?
Oh, I'm in Dorchester, Mass, 81 Birch Street in Dorchester.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Susan.
Yes,
Susan Leff.
This is Susan Leff's computer. This is her husband, Drew Leff. I live at 112 Beach Street in the Leather District, about a block from this site. I am not opposed to the group. I'm not opposed to cannabis stores. We've used a couple of them in the past, so I have a little bit of experience with that. But what I am concerned about are 2 issues, primarily the issue of traffic right at this particular location, and the impact not on Beach Street, but on the areas behind in the alleyways. Let's just start with that one first, and then I'd like to come back to the other points. Behind our building, there's an alleyway, Utica Street, which is really an alley. It leads to our garage and many other loading docks and the like. And if you go This is between Beach and Tufts Street. If you go in the other direction down to Nealon, there are similar situations. And we already have a problem with people hanging out there doing drugs. Not so much sitting around smoking cannabis, but they're doing drugs. I'm just a little bit concerned, well, more, I would say more than a little bit concerned, that we'll find people coming out of the store saying, hey, let's have a joint now. And, you know, why don't you take it home is what I would say to them. But coming back and sitting in our alleyway because it's not, you know, highly observed. Your cameras, first of all, I don't even know who's sitting there watching those cameras, but those are on the main streets. The issue is not going to be so much on the main streets. It's going to be behind the buildings. I'm wondering whether there should be cameras there. I'd like to know actually who's actually going to be observing that and what are they going to do about it. So that's one, that's a security issue. Second point is you're promising the neighborhood friendly, whatever it's called, a program, and that's great. But once you get your license, how do we know that we can come, that there'll be enforcement of it? What do we do if there isn't enforcement of it? We're just concerned about what that future is. So that's I think the second point. And then the third point is the intersection Atlantic Avenue and Beach Street. Right now, because of the bus station, there is so much drop off there. People are waiting and double parking already. They're not doing it for the cannabis store, they're doing it already. I'm concerned what's going to go on beyond that we're already hitting a point that is too much. Desiree, you've talked about, oh, we're sure the people aren't going to be driving here. How do you know that? I drive right now. If I wanted to go to a cannabis store, I drive to North Station area to do that. And I find a place to park and I go and walk. The lines aren't bad anymore. But how do you know that? If you're a business person that is looking at your market, how do you know what your market is? And who do you really expect is that market? What are you telling your financiers is the market for this? Where are they coming from and are they driving or not? You must know something more about that. So I appreciate your talking, discussing that point a little bit further.
Thank you. So yeah, in regards to the cameras, I will be dealing with community liaison. So someone will be monitoring the camera system, as well as the Boston Police Department will have live feed to the cameras. Sorry, trying to get to your questions. So the second question was, how do you ensure that, you know, we follow through with what we're promising? Well, every year, as a cannabis retail store, we have to go in front of the Boston Cannabis Board. If we were to open next year and, you know, you see that many of the commitments we've made we've not fallen through with those, you do have the ability to show up to our yearly hearing and say, this proposal, you know, offered this, they're not doing it, and that's something that can be done. And the Boston Cannabis Board, you know, they're very good about listening to community feedback and public testimony. And what I've seen with other dispensaries is that they've made commitments to the community, and after a year, some of the commitments, the restrictions have been dropped. For example, Seed in Jamaica Plain initially proposed to the neighborhood that they would have valet because a lot of the residents were expecting long lines, people driving in. Well, just a few months ago, Seed in Jamaica Plain went in front of the Boston Cannabis Board, and you know, that commitment was released because what they found out was that 50% of their customer base was local, and so they didn't need valet, and so we take our commitments seriously. We do plan to follow through with them, but that is an option that the community has, is to go in front of the Boston Cannabis Board at our yearly hearings and give feedback as to, um, whether we've been following up with our commitments or not.
Will we be
one
alerted to
additional-
those annual meetings?
I'm sorry?
How will we as neighbors be alerted so that we know that we can go and show up?
So, by law, like for this meeting, we had to send out mailers to the residents within 300 feet. And so that same 300 feet abutter radius will apply to the Boston Cannabis Board every year. So the community will know in advance. They will get a certified mail out notifying them of our hearing.
And I just want to make one point. As a function of the annual license renewal before the Cannabis Control Commission, you have to have a report of everything that transpired with your host municipality. So if there's a laundry list of complaints or someone decided to sue us on a theory of nuisance, there's an affirmative obligation to tell the city and the state, and that could be a factor that, if we don't do what we say, or there's all sorts of issues coming up, that could be a reason to deny a renewal.
Drew, it's Larry, and I've done a few liquor license cases over the past few years, and liquor license cases are always having trouble. The Sons of Boston, right across from Union Oyster House, just had their license rescinded, taken away. Nothing's happened with the existing cannabis establishments. There've been no disciplinary actions, no police reports. I think that probably shows the maturity of the industry. It also shows the regulations are far stricter than they are for liquor. And it's a license. And if you mess up, you lose your license, you have zero. So that's why I think it's been so effective. And the liquor license laws go back to 1933, and people always say that they're going to abide by them, and yet there's disciplinary actions every Thursday up there at City Hall. That's just a fact. And I worked on the Milk Street license. We had a traffic study. The traffic study came back and said, in so many words, almost nobody will drive there because everyone is there already. And people can walk, people can take public transportation, and there will be people who will drive, no doubt about it, but it's going to be de minimis. It's not going to be big numbers. And as the industry has expanded, the lines phenomenon that you had at NITA in Brookline Village and other places has disappeared. Even on, what's the weed holiday? The 20th of April, is it? Even there weren't lines. And as the number of dispensaries will increase, then the number of lines and the number of drivers will diminish. It's a math problem.
Thank you. So we will move on. The next person is Gregory Fiore.
Hello, everyone. I have two properties in the Leather District, although I no longer live there. And I am pretty indifferent about the cannabis industry. I've been involved with marijuana entrepreneurial or cannabis entrepreneurial ventures. I've put pen to paper to work on legislation around quality standards and testing. So very familiar for those who may want to preemptively try to shut down any comments I make. I think the challenge in the Leather District is that, and I'm very familiar with the legislation or the regulations that I'm sure will be complied with, because there's a huge economic incentive for the owners and operators to comply. So I think I would take that as a given. But I think when it comes to the neighborhood and the broader exposure that the neighborhood will have to the traffic that I believe, and I think others will believe will come, and we've seen it with the liquor store, we've seen it with the with an establishment on Lincoln Street. And we've had the owners in discussions, and they basically throw their hands up and say, we've complied with not only the regulations associated with our business, but also the additional licensing regulations and any requests made by the Leather District and the police. But they eventually say, we can't control what goes on, half a block up the street. We can't have our security teams go there. And that's the reality I think the people in the Leather District are trying to express here, because when we have that conversation a year, 2, 3, and inevitably we probably will, we know you're going to say, look, we've got a list here of 77 things that we've needed to have done, and we've invested 3.5 million and we've done them all. And people on the phone are going to be like, yeah, but there's still this happening in my neighborhood and I've got pictures to demonstrate it. So I think that's kind of what is difficult, I think, to articulate from the community, but that is the reality of what we've seen. And cannabis, obviously, it's a different animal, but I don't think we're willing to believe that we won't see those things. And there won't be any data that convinces us, right? Because, for obvious reasons. So that's all I just wanted to bring up. So I think, this is inevitable. And I think that's what people are trying to articulate, because we see it now and we talk to the owners and they really are trying, but it's tough. That's all I want.
Gregory. Thank you, Gregory. And I totally understand that. I think what we want to express is that we're willing to work with the community to help with these pre-existing issues. These are issues that are affecting many communities in the city of Boston. And I think that, I went to a few meetings in the Leather District where people were really passionate about getting down to the issues that are really affecting the Leather District. And it was really amazing to see the amount of commitment that people from the Leather District have and are willing to put in time and energy and into bettering the quality of life there. And I think that doesn't happen with just one business doing it. It happens when everybody comes together. And so what we're saying is that we're willing to come together and do our share of the work and put the time and energy and effort into, helping to better the quality of life in the Leather District for residents and business owners.
Yep, sounds pretty good. I think that's the most you can say at this point, right?
Thank you, Gregory.
Thank you, Gregory. So at this point, we will move on to the chat. I do realize that there are a couple people with their hands still raised, but they have already spoken, and I wanted to give everyone a chance to have their questions and comments answered, and I'll call on them after the chat is read through. So I'll start with Steve Brothers. He asked, can the operating team please talk about their experience running an actual cannabis business? And there's a second question. What does the team plan to do to help the Leather District? And number 3, what are some examples of success the team has had helping neighborhoods when they have had a business?
Sure, I can answer the first question there. The experience comes from me. I own and operate a retail store in Holyoke. It's been open for over a year. We have a pristine track record. We have no regulatory violations either at the city level under the terms of our special permit, nor with the Cannabis Control Commission. I am a singularly devoted cannabis attorney. I help people comply with the rules at the state and local level. I'm a former municipal attorney. I've helped lots of people with inspections. I had an inspection 2 weeks ago where the investigator said, I've never had an inspection where there were 0 deficiencies before. So the rules and abiding by them, that's all on me as the compliance officer. I think about these rules all day, every day, and I am a paid professional to make sure all of my clients follow those rules. In terms of operational expertise, we have people on our team. Eric Lawrence, for instance, has 20 years of experience with retail. James Finney has managed a staff of over 130 people before. And cannabis businesses are not so dissimilar to other retail businesses, except that there's that extra layer of regulatory stuff you have to abide by. So with our powers combined, I am very confident that we'll maintain that exemplary track record with nary a regulatory violation. And as Desi alluded to earlier, there are a lot of mega companies from out of state looking to steamroll neighborhoods. That is not at all what we're doing here. We've adapted our policies and procedures and proposal, in direct response to the neighborhood concerns that have been raised. And I don't think you'd get that same commitment from an out-of-state mega corporation that just sees profit as the singular goal. And I'll let Desi handle the second question.
What was the second question? I'm sorry.
I think
The
it
second
dealt
question.
with the
Sorry,
interactions led the district.
I was typing in the chat. But what does the team plan to do to help the leather district?
Well, I mean, we've discussed that already, but as I mentioned, we are, having the added security cameras. We are also committed to engaging with neighborhood groups, and just whatever arises in the neighborhood that needs to be done, whether that's cleanup, volunteering, to take graffiti off the walls, going to the monthly meetings to ensure that our business is not being impactful to the community. That's one of the reasons that we are continuing to meet with the community. We want to know what the community needs are. I don't want to have a meeting and offer the Leather District fire truck or, community benefits that we think that you might need. I think it's important that the community give us feedback in order to help us continue to create the community benefits that the community needs.
And the third question was, what are some examples of success the team has had helping neighborhoods where they have had a business?
Sure. So in Holyoke, we have run expungement clinics to help people in Holyoke as an area of disproportionate impact. The physical space of this store will allow us the opportunity to host frequent expungement clinics, in addition to attempting to prevent some of the things that already are here in the Leather District today. So the addition of the cameras will allow us to monitor, during our operating hours, if anyone from our store is doing anything in violation of the Friendly Neighborhood Agreement. If they are, again, they'll be banned from the store. And also our, intended cross-section of customers, we really expect it to be professionals, and that's largely based on the incredibly high cost of regulated cannabis because it has to be tested, and it's heavily taxed at 20%, as well as a 3% community impact fee that would go to the city of Boston. So the products cost more because they're tested and have to pass that testing to be eligible to be sold. So yeah, the commitment here is to engage with the neighborhood, to try to clean up some of the loitering, the littering, try to tamp down some of the public consumption issues of any substance within our direct curtilage in the building, and to offer the space on our second floor to various nonprofits that do great work in the city and the neighborhood, and that's a pretty unique structure to my knowledge in the state.
Thank you for that. Eileen asked, the cameras are not going to be on South Street, Lincoln Street, Neyland Street, and above all in the alleyways. So when folks are loitering, littering, loud, etc., in other parts of the neighborhood, ? I find it hard to believe commuter rail users will not be part of your client base, that you are targeting local residents.
We do fully expect commuter customers to shop at our store. Many of the folks commuting are commuting back to towns that don't allow retail stores. And yeah, that's our target cross section, professionals who work in the area. Certainly people who live in your buildings consume cannabis. Massachusetts has the highest percentage of adults that admit to consuming cannabis in the entire country at 21%. So statistically, your neighbors enjoy cannabis and may shop at our store.
Brass Tacks asked, why won't this store lower the surrounding property value? Is it attracting customers which are beneficial to our value? Is the through traffic, parking, or aesthetic of the store value to long-term residents over other businesses? Taking property value as an aggregate score of the value of a store to a neighborhood, do you have data to show the change of property value? Do you have
Yes.
evidence it will lower property value? Also, what about the escalation? A higher police presence would add to more enforcement and decrease quality of life. How do I register a complaint when someone is loitering in front of my building?
So I'm going to jump in. There have been several studies across the United States that show that property values near dispensaries actually go up. That's likely a factor of how difficult it is to open a dispensary, as you can see from this evening, all the people that have shown up and voiced so much opposition. As a result, property values around dispensaries just have gone up. And if you need copies of the studies, we can provide them for you. Just let us know.
I think also the property, one of the reasons that property values may go up is because, cannabis establishments are some of the most secure establishments out there. So what we're seeing is that, crime can be reduced by having these dispensaries nearby because they're so heavily secured. The security footage is very in depth. There are no blind spots, and the state has to approve it. And so no one wants to commit a crime near a dispensary when they know they're likely to get caught.
Thank you. Amy Hendrigan asked, do you ever have neighborhood residents on your board?
I'm sorry, do we ever have
Neighborhood
residents
residents on your board? Yeah.
On our board, no. Our board is governed by our operating agreement. It has to be submitted to the city, and it also has to be approved by the state. And in light of the social equity aspect, the social equity team has to have control, including control of the board.
Thank you, guys. So we'll go back to people that have their hand raised. I see Antonella Perron.
Well, I already spoke before, but still I would appreciate to really understand which are the benefits of this store in our neighborhood beside the installation of the camera. We do not need support to control the safety. I'm trying to understand what's the value to have this store next to my building. Because again, I only see problem for my daily activities. So I would really appreciate if you can make me change my mind tonight by telling me the benefits why a resident would like to have this store next door.
Antonella, I think, we've gone over some of the community benefits that we have in place and why we've chosen them. I'd be more than happy to get on a phone call with you after this meeting if you feel that there are community needs that we are completely missing and that we can help with. I'm happy to listen to your feedback.
Yeah, no, it would be great because, I don't think that you need to address, when you open the store, I don't think that you are addressing the neighborhood, the problem, or what these neighbors needs. I'm asking you, since you have this idea, and that's great for you and for your company, for your benefit, I'm just asking what this brings to me beside more traffic, more people, parking, people smoking in the street. And, on top of that, I am still a neuroscientist and I have been working in the abuse. And so I have an extra concern that this is not going to improve our current situation in the neighborhood near South Station. But I am really happy to have a conversation with you anytime because maybe I'm missing a point here. What this brings to me, why should I propose? I say yes, I am in favor of this business.
Thank you, Antonella. I think that, the concerns that you have, and I'll say it again, there are 11 dispensaries right now operating. These neighborhoods have not been impacted negatively. There have not been a rise in crime or substance abuse or any of the concerns that you just mentioned. So right now there's really no data to suggest that these things will happen once the store is up and running here in the city of Boston. But if you put your email on the chat, we're more than happy to follow up with you tomorrow and meet.
Antonella, could you also state for the record your place of residence?
Yes, I am at 210 South Street.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to Russell Ng.
Hello, everyone. My name is Russell Lang. I'm with the Friends of Reggie Huang Park. I do not live in Boston or the Leather District, but I grew up there. I've been there before even residents have been there because my uncle Reggie owned a business right on the corner, a couple of places on South Street as well as Lincoln Street. And my concern is for when we have kids at the park. So understandably, if you open up a store and your patrons are going to smoke, where would they end up smoking? They're not going to go back across the street to South Station and smoke in their area. They most likely will walk over to the park. They're already doing it now with the skateboarders. I've been there with people just walking in and hanging out, smoking, and I ask them to leave and stuff like that. But what are you going to do, or what are there any kind of provisions for when their kids are in the park, smoking around kids? Because we've started to work with the skateboarders to say, hey, if there's kids in the park, be respectful of the kids. What can we do, or what do you do, or have you even analyzed that? Because we're not 300 feet from your abutting zone. What are you going to do to prevent your patrons from going into the park? Because technically it's not even patrolled by Boston police. You can put a camera there, Boston police cannot respond because the park is on state property. So you have to find a state trooper to actually go in there to do anything. What can your store do to protect, like I said, the kids? Again, I'm not a resident. I live out here in beautiful Medfield where it's open air, but I'm there every summer. I've been there every summer since the place opened. And I just want to make sure that the kids from Chinatown, the kids from the Leather District that use the park now, and it's going to be, we're working with the DOT to get a lease for the park so that we can maintain it and everything else. But what can you do, or what have you thought of that will protect the residents and the users?
Sure. Thank you for that question, Russell. So yeah, again, anyone to be admitted to the store has to prove that they're 21. The state's Cannabis Control Commission requires every single product to have a unique alphanumeric code on it. It's a seed to sale tracking platform. So that means we know who grew it, we know who made it, and we know who sold it. So if someone is in the park, or if there's a wrapper that someone leaves in the park, that barcode, that alphanumeric code, would be traceable back to our store. We'd cross-reference it with the friendly neighborhood agreement and permanently ban them. We can't control, what people do in parks. But again, we can control who comes into our stores. And our target customer base, we really think are going to be, people in their 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s who aren't apt to, smoke in public the way a teenager might. Again, you can't enter the store. Unlike a liquor store, you can't bring your toddler in. It's even a Boston police officer, if they happen to be 20 years old, would not be allowed in the store because state law trumps the local policies. So yeah, this is our firm commitment. I have 2 young children myself. And yeah, it's much like alcohol. You have to keep it away from children by state law. I guess the major difference is, alcohol can and does kill people, and cannabis is biologically incapable of killing a human. But yeah, we primarily will be able to force through metric tracking, our friendly neighborhood agreement, which again is a step we're taking that goes above and beyond what the city and the state require.
Thank you, Blake. But I just want to reiterate that we've been battling the heroin pushers, everyone else that comes in the park, because it really is a unpoliced territory. So, how can your store or how can you prevent them from going, or deter them from using at the park? And that's all I have. I like I said, I don't live in the Leather District, but I support Leather District. I'm very active in the community, and I care about the kids.
Russell, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I have a 2-year-old daughter, so I share that concern with you. I've gone to parks with my daughter and have had to leave because people are smoking cannabis. I've also found packaging for cannabis at the local park near my house, at which point I did report to that business. I mean, we're here to work with the community. We're happy to stay in contact with yourself and members of the community who run the park. We definitely don't want to see our patrons, head that way or consume in the park. And if we find out that they are, that's something that we can include in the friendly neighbor agreement, as well as work with you to ensure that, that this isn't happening, and that if it is happening, it's not our patrons. But we're more than happy to work with you around this and to be part of the community helping to make these type of changes. Because I think, kids' parks should be respected.
Can I just make a quick comment? It's Greg Fiore. I spoke earlier, but I think that the fact that
Gregory?
Yep.
Chulan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just on that point, that's all.
Gregory, can you give me a second? You raise your hand and we can, I'll call you.
Can I just say, so then is it encumbrance to actually put that in the friendly neighborhood agreement that the park is off limits?
Absolutely. That's something that we can definitely include.
Okay.
It's essentially
so
in there
much.
because the park would be public consumption and the friendly neighborhood agreement prohibits public consumption. So it's covered.
We're happy to specifically add any specific sensitive areas that any members of the community might identify. So
thank you so much.
Thank you, Russell.
Thank you. So Gregory, I'm gonna let you speak your comment into the record now.
Yeah, I just want to say, I think the permanent banning from an establishment is a pretty high deterrent for people who are aware that that's a consequence, I would say. If no one wants to not be able to access, what they came to buy, even if somebody banned us from any store that we go to or plan to go to regularly, I would say that's pretty strong as long as they're aware. Sounds good to me.
Thank you, Gregory. And what I can say is that, I've seen hundreds of proposals across the state, and many of the ones that have been approved here in the city of Boston. And it's something that, has so far been working because the Boston Cannabis Board has not received any violations. We're seeing these currently operating dispensaries going up in front of the Cannabis Board saying, we committed to this because the neighborhood had concerns around it, and we're just not seeing it happen. So slowly some of those commitments are being, companies are being released from their commitments because they're just not seeing a lot of the concerns that are happening. But as I said, the commitments we make today, you can hold us accountable for every year.
Thank you. So I'm gonna move on to Larry Rosenblum.
Yes, hi, thank you. I spoke before. I just would like to elaborate on a point that Drew Leff had made, which is something I think you need to be aware of. Drew had referred to a service alley between South and Lincoln Streets. There's also a service alley between South and Atlantic Avenue. And that one is very different because it leads into a dead end. The dead end is directly behind the establishment that you're looking at. And Drew had referred to things like drug use in those alleys. And I'd like to, having been in the neighborhood for over 40 years, I'd like to elaborate on that. There have been murders in those alleys. There is repeated sex in those alleys, which I personally have witnessed from windows. And so these are really unsavory places. And so I think you should be aware of this because it might be something, if there was a place to put a camera in the neighborhood, it would be in that alley. The street and the reason for that is people go into the alley because it's the best place to hide. And so everyone should be aware of that. And most neighborhoods do not have the kind of spatial arrangements and the kind of traps that these alleys provide people who are interested in doing something which they don't want to be seen doing.
So if I may address that, Larry, those areas you've described aren't part of our, to be leased premises. So, we don't really have the power to put a camera on someone else's private property. That is just outside of our legal rights.
Larry, and I know exactly, I walked back through the alley and initially that was my idea. I said, why can't we put a camera? But as Blake mentioned, it's not part of our property. So the advantage we have in being in the corner is that we have multiple views of the neighborhood down Atlantic, across South Station, down Beach Street. One of the things we can ensure is, I know that alley exits out on Lincoln Street. I'm sorry, on Atlantic Ave.
On both, actually.
Yeah. So one of the things, I think the camera footage that we have facing Atlantic Avenue, that's the most we can do is if someone is coming out of that alley, if let's say someone on the other side of the street gets footage of someone going in the alley, there's a crime back there, something happens, the most we can do is at least have the footage from Atlantic Ave of who came out of that alley on the Atlantic Ave side.
Right.
So unfortunately, it's something that we would have loved doing. It's something I looked into, but we were unable to.
All right, thank you.
Thank you again. Micah. Micah, so I see in the chat that you wanted your question to be spoken on to the record. Let me see. You have multiple questions here. Would you like to see it? Okay. Let me find it. Could you retype that question? Okay.
Yeah, there are over 100 messages on the chat, so it's really hard to go back and.
You have spoken of the quality, the traceability. What is the general price point you're aiming for, your major through price per customer average? I ask because the higher it is, the less likely because some of the concerns mentioned here are reposted.
Yep, I can handle that. So yeah, the state of Massachusetts has some of the highest prices for adult use regulated cannabis in the country. For instance, if we were to sell single joints, which again, we're not planning to do, Those are between $15 and $20, you know, for a half gram or a gram, which is, you know, not a huge amount. You know, an eighth, which is pretty much the standard measure of, you know, a purchase of bud, of, you know, the quote unquote bag of weed, that is going to be likely in the $50 to $65 range plus taxes. There are other product lines such as edibles, concentrates. Those are similarly expensive. You know, a gram of an extract would be anywhere from $75 to $150. And yeah, you know, everything about this industry is expensive. Compliance is expensive. You know, our rent is expensive. So there's not going to be, you know, an Ocean State job lots of cannabis on the corner. It's going to be products, you know, obviously we're limited to buying from licensed cultivators and manufacturers. They all have to make money. So again, the data shows that our state has some of the highest prices in the country. Over time, if you look to California, Colorado, Oregon, et cetera, prices do gradually go down as more people, you know, come online. But inherently, you know, we don't live in the tropics, right? So cannabis is expensive to grow in a, you know, a climate like ours. And that is why, you know, the cost to us at wholesale means our sticker price at retail will be higher than average. The state average transaction cart is around $50. I would guess that the store here would be closer to 100 or 150.
Thank you. So are there anybody else that wants to speak? If you do want to speak, please click the raised hand button. As of right now, there are no raised hands. So I'll go back to the chat and read off questions from the chat. Again, I will only be reading questions with the residents attached to the questions. So I will start with Lisa Galtieri. I live at 717 Atlantic. What are you going to do to prevent people from sitting on our front steps or on our front sidewalk smoking? Do I 311 it? Do I get security to move them? The area is often full of smoke at other Boston stores, so I have no confidence that the dispensary cares about anything on sale.
If anyone is caught smoking any of our products in front of 717 Atlantic Avenue, which we will be able to see with our added camera plus security, they will be banned from our store. The point of contact will be myself, James Finney, and Trey Williams. We will give you a direct phone number that you can call. Thank you.
Amy Hendrigan, she stated that are your hours comparable or longer than other shops in the city? She lives at 717.
Yeah, so those are our proposed hours. The hours will be set as a function of the special permit, which is the city requirement. That is also a public hearing that everyone within 300 feet of the property line will get notice for with an opportunity for public comment. So we're proposing that. We don't yet know what the city will allow for our particular proposal, but I think citywide they largely try to stay pretty close to liquor store hours or potentially shut them down a few hours earlier than comparable liquor stores in the neighborhood.
I'd just like to say that I've written our email on the chat. I know that, you know, a lot of people have asked questions. If there's anyone that was not able to make it to today's meeting, we are more than happy to have another community meeting or meet with any residents of the community who were unable to make it today.
Also, if you guys do have any additional questions, please put it in the chat right now with your place of residence attached. If there are no, so Lisa stated, Bridget Worcester
717 Atlantic Ave. Having residents call just puts us in a position of policing to let us know there's an issue. Why should we bear that burden?
Well, I mean, I would say that if you're reporting things to 311, you're already doing that. We're not asking the community to enforce our friendly neighbor agreement. We're saying that, if we function as a community and we communicate and we're able to rely on each other to ensure these things aren't happening, then it's something that you do as a duty to the community. We're not in any way saying that 717 Atlantic Ave or its trustees, are responsible to do this. We're saying this is our phone number. We want to be friendly neighbors. Please give us a call.
Thank you, everybody. Is there any further questions? If there are any further questions, please put in the chat now, or please raise your hand to speak.
Chulan, and I'll just go on to say that I'm not sure if the meeting is supposed to go past 8 p.m. I'm more than happy to stay in a few extra minutes, if need be. But I do have a 3-year-old I have to go pick up. So
Yes.
if I'm happy to stay a little bit longer, I would just need to make a quick phone call.
Yeah, if there are no further questions, we can wrap this meeting up. I have left my email in the chat. I am the Chinatown Downtown Leather District Liaison. So if you have any questions concerning this project, you can reach out to me as well as the team. Please feel free to reach out to me at any time. And I will leave it to the team to have any final messages that they want to.
We appreciate everyone for joining us. We've listened, and this conversation is not over. Like I said, we're happy to meet with the community as many times as we see fit. And I do thank you. I do thank you for coming out today. I admire the passion that this community has. And that's something that, I wish to see in every community. So thank you all for your time.
Also, if you guys have any questions or concerns, in addition to me, you can also reach out to Councilor Flynn's office. Melissa Lowe from Councilor Lynn's office has kindly left her email in the chat. So if you guys do have any other additional questions or concerns, please feel free to CC me, myself, Melissa, and the team.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. And this will conclude the statutory cannabis meeting.
Thank you, Chulan.
Thank you again.